For thousands of years, they thought humans were just legends, ghost stories told by warlords to scare their enemies. A race too dangerous, too powerful to exist. But when their armada appeared at the edge of the galaxy, the truth became undeniable. The myths were real, and now the galaxy had to answer for what it had done. The myth of humanity, a legend that shouldn't have been true. For centuries, the name human had been nothing more than a ghost story. The Vrak Dominion, the supreme rulers of the galaxy, told tales of an ancient species, one that had once challenged the balance of power. A race so dangerous, so unpredictable, so relentless that they had to be wiped out. Or so the story went. No one had ever seen a human. No historical records existed of their origin, their culture, or their technology. It was as if they had never been real. The great warlords of the Dominion laughed at the idea. A species that could outthink any AI? Impossible. A civilization that could outfight any army? Absurd. A people so terrifying that the entire galaxy turned against them? Fantasy. And so, humanity became a whispered myth. Something told to scare young soldiers before battle. A tale used to justify Dominion control. A warning of what happened when a species rose too high, too fast. The warlords repeated the same words for generations. The humans are gone, and they will never return. Until one day, the impossible happened. The first omen, something watching from the void. The first sign of humanity's return was not a battle. It was a silence. At the edge of Dominion space, deep space listening stations stopped transmitting. Sensors picked up nothing. Not static. Not interference. Not even the natural background radiation of the universe. Just emptiness. The warlords ignored it. A sensor malfunction. Pirates, maybe. They sent scout fleets to investigate. None of them came back. The Dominion, still arrogant, sent a second wave of ships. Then a third. Then an entire fleet. They all vanished. Without a distress call. Without a battle report. Without a single trace of debris. It was as if they had never been there at all. And then the first message came. Not a distress signal. Not a warning. A single transmission broadcast across every Dominion world. Every warship. Every communication network. A voice that did not belong to any known species. A voice that carried no fear, no arrogance. A voice that simply stated a single truth. You are not alone. And the galaxy shuddered. The fear of the unknown. The Dominion warlords, once so confident, began to feel something they had not felt in centuries. Unease. The message had no origin point. No traceable transmission path. No indication of who had sent it. But the tone. The voice. Something about it felt familiar. And that was what terrified them the most. For generations, they had dismissed the legends of humanity. Called them lies. Called them fantasy. But now, they weren't so sure. And then it got worse. The empty worlds. In less than a week, 6 colony worlds fell silent. Planets that had once been bustling with life were now ghosts. But not destroyed. Not invaded. Not bombed into oblivion. Just empty. As if every sentient being had simply vanished. No signs of battle. No struggle. Even food remained untouched on tables. It was as if something had moved through and decided that these people did not belong. The Dominion sent their greatest warlords to investigate. None of them returned. And then another message was sent. Do you remember us now? That was when the Dominion finally understood. The ghosts were real. The myths were true. Humanity had returned. And now, the galaxy would pay the price. The final denial. A mistake that would cost them everything. The Dominion refused to accept it. This is not possible. The humans are dead. This is a trick. But deep inside, they knew the truth. Because the stories had always warned them. If humans return, they will not come as diplomats. They will not come seeking alliances. They will come only once to finish what was started. And so, the warlords did the only thing they knew. They gathered their armies, summoned their fleets, prepared their weapons, and they made a declaration of war. A challenge to the ghosts they once thought were dead. Whoever you are, we do not fear you. Show yourselves. Face us. They should not have done that. Because the very next day, the human armada appeared, the signal that changed everything. The day the stars went silent, the Dominion had sent its challenge, a declaration of war against an enemy they had never seen. They expected a response, an invasion, a transmission, some sign that their enemy had heard them. Instead, they got silence. And then, in an instant, everything changed. The darkened systems. The first sign of humanity's return was not a fleet. It was a blackout. In every major Dominion stronghold, systems failed. Power grids collapsed. Weapon platforms went offline. AI-controlled defenses shut down without warning. No explanation. No attack. Just emptiness. The Dominion's greatest minds scrambled for answers. They found none, because there was no virus, no trace of hacking, no foreign signal. It was as if the technology had simply decided to stop working, as if something greater had taken control. And then, across every surviving screen, every functioning display, a message appeared. A simple, terrifying message. You should have left us alone. The unseen arrival. The Dominion panicked. Was this psychological warfare? Was it a false flag? But before they could react, the skies changed. It began on one world, then another, and another. At the same time, across every Dominion-controlled planet, the stars began to shift. Not physically, not through natural motion, but as if space itself was being rewritten. The Dominion watched in horror as entire constellations vanished. Their brightest moons blinked out of existence. It was not an illusion, not a malfunction. It was real. And in that moment, they understood. This was not just a return. This was a statement. Humanity had not been hiding. They had been watching, waiting, planning. And now, they had already arrived. The galaxy holds its breath. Across the Dominion, rulers fell silent. The warlords, once confident and arrogant, now looked at each other in terror. Their greatest fleets, their most advanced weaponry, useless against an enemy they had mocked for centuries. They had dismissed humanity as a legend. But now it was clear the legend was real, and the war they had called for had already begun. The Armada appears. The horizon burns. At first, no one saw them. There was no flash of arrival, no warping through hyperspace, no grand declaration. But then, the horizon changed. On the edges of every Dominion-controlled system, where once there had been nothing but stars, something appeared. Massive, silent, unstoppable. The fleet that shouldn't exist. Every Dominion battle network, every sensor array, every orbital scanner lit up at once. But the readings made no sense. The warlords gathered in emergency war councils, demanding answers. What are we looking at? How many ships? The responses came in halting whispers. Too many to count. Too large to be real. Too advanced to be possible. And then, the first visuals came in, and the warlords, for the first time, understood the depth of their mistake. The return of the forgotten. The human armada stretched across the void like a second galaxy. Their ships were unlike anything ever seen. Not smooth, elegant vessels like Dominion cruisers. Not mechanical hulks like the war fleets of lesser species. These ships were alive. Dark, angular leviathans with shimmering armor that twisted in the light. Weapons that left afterimages in reality itself. Engines that made no sound, no trace of power. Only the sense that they were pulling from something deeper than physics itself. And leading them, at the center of this impossible formation, a single, massive warship, larger than any Dominion world ship, darker than the void itself, the supreme command ship, the Abyss. And it sent only one message, not in words, not in symbols, but in the sheer presence of its arrival. The warlords had wanted a war. Now they had won, and they would not win. The Dominion's desperation. Panic spread across every military stronghold. Fleets scrambled, weapons armed, defenses activated. The Dominion's warlords tried to assert control. Hold formation. Do not let them intimidate you. They are just ships. Fire. And so, the first shots of the last war in history were fired. Thousands of Dominion warships unleashed their full arsenal. Missiles, plasma cannons, hyperdense kinetic rounds. a barrage of destruction capable of tearing moons apart. And yet, nothing. The human fleet did not move. The attacks never landed. They simply vanished. Not blocked, not deflected, just gone, as if reality itself had decided they were not worth existing. The Dominion warlords froze. For the first time in history, they realized they were not fighting an enemy. They were facing a force of nature. And now, that force was looking right at them. The final warning. A voice echoed across every Dominion system. It did not come through comm channels. It did not originate from any one ship. It simply arrived. It was not loud. It was not angry. It was simply absolute. You wanted to see us. Now you have. You wanted war. Now you will have it. A pause. And then, pray that we show you mercy. The transmission ended. The silence that followed was deafening. Because deep in their hearts, every Dominion warlord knew there would be no mercy. The first strike, humanity's power revealed. The Dominion's fatal mistake. The Dominion had believed it ruled the galaxy. For centuries, they had crushed lesser species. Their fleets had turned worlds to ash. Their armies had erased entire civilizations. They had always been the hunters. And now, for the first time, they were the prey. The order to attack. The Supreme War Council of the Dominion was in chaos. The human fleet had appeared without warning. Their weapons had ignored reality itself. But the warlords refused to believe they were already beaten. We outnumber them. We have more firepower. They cannot be invincible. And so, in their arrogance, they gave the final order. All fleets engage. And with that, the war began. The first shots fired. Thousands of Dominion warships charged. They moved in tight formations, deploying their most advanced weapons. Planet Cracker torpedoes. Starlance disruptors. Weapons that had once ended empires. Weapons that had never failed before. They fired. A storm of death and destruction roared toward the human fleet. And then, nothing. The attack that never landed. The Dominion's warlords stared in horror. Their weapons did not detonate, did not impact, did not even exist anymore. The moment they neared human ships, they simply vanished, like they had never been fired at all. The laws of physics had been rewritten, and now, for the first time, the Dominion realized they had no weapons that could kill humans. The retaliation. The human fleet did not move, did not respond, until, finally, the Supreme Commander of humanity spoke. A simple command transmitted across the stars. Return fire. And in that instant, the galaxy changed. The first human attack in 500,000 years. The human warships did not fire missiles, did not launch bombardments. They did something worse. Reality itself shuddered. The stars around them bent and warped. And then, entire Dominion fleets vanished. Not destroyed, not disabled, not damaged, simply removed, as if they had never existed. The terror of the unstoppable force. The warlords panicked. How? What are they doing? They scrambled for answers, for explanations, for anything that made sense. But there was no defense, no way to counter, because the humans were not fighting with weapons. They were redefining war itself. The unraveling. The Dominion had always believed in control, that their fleets, their armies, their power were absolute. But now they saw the truth. Humanity had not returned to fight for territory, not for revenge, not for conquest. They had returned to correct a mistake that was called the Dominion. The last, desperate attempt. The Dominion fleets retreated. Their admirals screamed for reinforcements. Fall back, regroup, but it was too late. The humans had already won. And as the Dominion's greatest warships blinked out of existence, a final message played across every channel. You have no weapons that can hurt us. You have no defense against us. You started this war, and now we will finish it. The transmission ended. The battlefield fell silent, and the Dominion finally understood. This was not a war. This was an extinction. The voice of the forgotten. A war without mercy. The Dominion had never felt fear. They had built their empire on destruction. They had wiped out entire species without hesitation. And now, they faced an enemy that did not speak, did not negotiate, did not care about their power. And that was when the Supreme Warlord of the Dominion made his final mistake. He sent a transmission, a desperate attempt to reason with the enemy. We will surrender. We will negotiate peace. And for the first time, the humans responded. The transmission that stopped the galaxy. It was not a video, not a voice message. It was a memory that every being in the Dominion saw at once. A vision from thousands of years ago, a time when humans still walked among the stars, a time before the Dominion had erased them from history. And in that memory, the truth was revealed. The forgotten massacre. The Dominion had not defeated humanity in battle. They had not won through war. They had betrayed them. The vision showed the last human world, a thriving civilization, advanced beyond imagination. But instead of war, the Dominion had used deception. They had sent diplomats, had signed peace treaties, and then they had unleashed a weapon unlike any other. A virus designed to erase humans from existence. Not to kill them, to remove them from time itself. To make it so they had never been. And for thousands of years, it had worked, or so they had thought. Humanity remembers. The Dominion warlords staggered back in horror. The truth was clear. Humanity had not been destroyed. They had escaped, had watched from the shadows, had waited for the day they could return. And now that day had come. The Supreme Commander's voice echoed across the stars. You wanted to erase us. You wanted us forgotten. A pause. Then, now, we erase you. The first planet falls. Without warning, the human fleet moved. Not through hyperspace. Not through conventional drives. They simply arrived. And above the Dominion's capital world, they unleashed their first true attack. The power of the returned. The Dominion expected bombardments. Expected armies. But humanity had evolved beyond war. Instead, they rewrote reality. A single beam of light descended from their flagship. It did not explode, did not destroy. Instead, every single Dominion citizen on the planet vanished. Not killed, not imprisoned, simply removed. The planet remained. The cities remained. The structures remained. But the Dominion was gone. The galaxy watched in terror. This was not war. This was judgment. The final warning. The Dominion's remaining fleets fled in terror. Their greatest warlords abandoned their posts. And the Supreme Commander of humanity spoke one last time. You wanted to forget us. But now, we're the ones who decide who gets to be remembered. The message ended. The war was no longer about victory. It was about survival. And for the first time, the Dominion understood what it meant to be hunted. The battle that wasn't a battle. The end of Dominion rule. The Dominion had called for war. But what they got wasn't war. It was annihilation. They had believed in their armies, their fleets, their technology. They had ruled the galaxy for millennia. And now, they were running, scattered across the stars, searching for any place to hide. But there was no escape, because humanity had returned. And they were not here for conquest. They were here for justice. And justice was absolute. The flight of the warlords. The Dominion's most powerful warlords fled to the outer systems. They sent transmissions to any species that would listen. Help us. Humanity is exterminating us. But no one responded, because every species in the galaxy had not forgotten what the Dominion had done to them. And now, they watched in satisfaction as the executioners arrived. The Dominion had ruled through terror. Now, they were the ones who were afraid. The second wave begins. Humanity did not chase them. They did not send hunters. Instead, they simply rewrote the battlefield. The Dominion's hidden worlds, secret bases, fortified citadels. All of them vanished overnight. One moment they were there. The next, gone. Not bombed. Not obliterated. Just removed. As if they had never existed. And with every world lost, the Dominion's power faded. Until, finally, there was nothing left. The message that broke the Dominion. Across the shattered empire, the last remaining warlords gathered in a desperate meeting. Their fleets were in ruins. Their armies were deserting. And the galaxy had turned its back on them. Then, a final transmission arrived. From the Supreme Commander of humanity. This is not a war. This is the correction of history. A pause. Then, you never belonged here. The Dominion's final stand. With nowhere left to run, the last Dominion warlords gathered their remaining fleets. We will fight to the last. Humanity cannot erase us all. They deployed their final weapons, unleashed their greatest firepower, a desperate last stand. But against humanity, it meant nothing. The end without a fight. The human fleet did not fire, did not engage, did not waste effort on a battle that had already been decided. Instead, the Supreme Commander spoke one last time. We are not your executioners. We are your consequence. And with that, the Dominion fleets vanished. Not destroyed, not captured, simply removed, erased from existence as if they had never been. The war that never was. The galaxy watched in silent awe. The most powerful empire in history had fallen. Not in a grand war, not in a final battle, but in a quiet, methodical erasure. And in the void that remained, one truth stood above all else. Humanity had not just returned. They had taken control of fate itself. And now, the galaxy belonged to them. The forgotten atrocities, why humanity left, the secrets buried in time. The Dominion was gone, erased from history. But there was still one question unanswered. Why had humanity disappeared in the first place? Why had a species so powerful, so advanced, simply vanished? The galaxy had always assumed it was defeat, that humanity had been wiped out, that they had been broken. But now, as the remnants of the Dominion's data archives were uncovered, the truth finally came to light. And what they found shook the galaxy to its core. The betrayal that doomed the stars. Thousands of years ago, humanity had not been alone. They had been leaders, guardians, protectors of a galaxy on the verge of unity. They had built alliances, created technologies beyond imagination. And for a time, the galaxy had been on the path to peace. But the Dominion had feared them, feared what humanity could become. And so, they did what they always did to threats. They plotted in secret. They manipulated weaker species. They whispered lies and fear. And when the time was right, they struck. The day the sky fell. Humanity never saw it coming. Not because they were weak, not because they were arrogant, but because they had trusted the galaxy. And that trust was betrayed. The Dominion, alongside dozens of species they had corrupted, turned against humanity in a single coordinated strike. It was not a war. It was a massacre. Entire planets were burned from orbit. Cities, once thriving, turned to dust. And when humanity fought back, the Dominion unleashed their final weapon, the ultimate erasure. It was not a bomb, not an army, not a fleet. It was something worse. A weapon designed not to kill, but to erase, to remove all traces of humanity from existence, to make it so they had never been. Time itself was rewritten. Records were altered. Entire civilizations were made to forget. And in the end, it worked. The galaxy moved on, and humanity vanished. The truth that could not be buried. For thousands of years, the Dominion believed they had won, that their betrayal had been perfect, that humanity was gone forever. But what they did not know was that humanity had survived. Somewhere, beyond the reach of time, they had watched. And now, they had returned. Not for revenge, not for conquest, but for justice. And justice would be absolute. The galaxy reacts in horror. The revelations spread like wildfire. The remaining species of the galaxy, the ones who had believed the Dominion's lies for centuries, now saw the truth. They had not fought against monsters. They had helped create them. And now, they feared what humanity would do next. Would they wipe out the entire galaxy? Would they punish every species that had turned against them? Or is their judgment already decided? The last transmission. As the surviving worlds waited in fear, one final message echoed across the stars. It came from humanity's supreme commander. Calm, unshaken, and absolute. You betrayed us once. You will not get the chance to do it again. The message ended. No threats, no promises, just a fact. And the galaxy knew, whatever happened next, it was already too late to stop it. The last betrayal, the Dominion's final mistake. A desperate gamble. The Dominion was gone. Their fleets erased. Their worlds emptied. Their warlords hunted into extinction. But somewhere, In the dying embers of their once mighty empire, a final act of defiance was being prepared. Because even in their last moments, even as the galaxy turned against them, the last surviving Dominion leaders had one final plan. A plan to do what they had always done: destroy everything. The Doomsday Device, buried deep beneath the ruins of their former capital world, hidden away in an underground vault, was the Dominion's ultimate weapon. Not a fleet, not an army, not a bomb, but something far worse. A machine designed for one purpose: to undo creation itself, to rip apart space and time, leaving behind only void. A weapon so dangerous that even the Dominion had feared using it. Because this was not a tool of war. It was annihilation. And now, in their desperation, they activated it. The countdown begins. Across the remains of the Dominion, a final transmission was sent. If we cannot rule the galaxy, we will ensure no one else can. The countdown began. In 10 minutes, the device would reach full power. In 15 minutes, it would detonate. And when it did, every star system within 10,000 light-years would collapse into nothingness. A chain reaction that would spread until nothing remained. The Dominion would have its revenge. They would take the entire galaxy with them. Or so they thought, because humanity was still watching. And they were not going to let it happen. Humanity moves. The Supreme Commander received the alert. They did not hesitate. Because this was expected. Because this was predictable. Because the Dominion had never known any other way to exist. And so, in an instant, the human fleet vanished and reappeared above the Dominion's last world. There was no warning, no diplomacy, no second chances. This was the end. The last battle. Dominion defenses activated instantly. The remaining warships, the last remnants of a shattered empire, opened fire. A futile, desperate act, because it did not matter. Nothing mattered now. The humans had come not to fight, but to erase. And so they did. One by one, the Dominion's remaining forces disappeared. Not destroyed, not burned away, removed, until only one thing remained: the device, and the warlords who had activated it. The final confrontation. The Supreme Commander stood in the Dominion's central command hub, facing the last warlords, the ones who had started everything, the ones who had ordered the betrayal, the ones who had tried to erase humanity. Now, they were the ones facing erasure. And they knew it. You cannot stop it. One of them sneered. It is already too late. The Supreme Commander did not speak. They simply raised a hand. And in that moment, the countdown stopped. The device powered down. And the Dominion's warlords finally realized they had never stood a chance. The true end of the Dominion. One of the warlords fell to his knees, whispering in horror. What are you?" The Supreme Commander's voice was calm. "We are what you tried to destroy. We are what you tried to forget. And now you are nothing." The last Dominion leaders did not scream. They did not beg, because there was nothing left to say. And as the Supreme Commander lowered their hand, the Dominion ceased to exist. The aftermath. Across the galaxy, the news spread instantly. The Dominion was gone. Their final weapon neutralized. Their empire wiped from history. And for the first time in millennia, the galaxy was free. But now a new question remained. What would humanity do next? Would they rule the stars? Would they claim dominion over everything? Or would they do what no one expected? Would they simply leave? The answer would come soon, and the galaxy wasn't ready for it. The end of the war. What comes next? The war that wasn't a war. The Dominion no longer existed. Their fleets? Erased. Their warlords? Vanished. Their worlds? Abandoned. And yet, the galaxy was not celebrating. Because for the first time, they were truly alone. The dominators were gone. But their absence left behind a void. A silence that no one knew how to fill. And now, the galaxy had to ask itself, what happens next? The eyes turned to humanity. The remaining civilizations of the galaxy turned their gaze to the last power standing. Humanity. The myths that had once been laughed at, the ghosts that had been forgotten, the race that had now become the greatest force the galaxy had ever seen. They had defeated an empire without a war. They had rewritten reality itself. And now, they stood at the peak of power. Would they take the throne? Would they rule the stars? Would they become the new overlords? The galaxy held its breath, waiting, watching, hoping, and then humanity made its decision. The last declaration. Across every known world, every surviving species, a final message was broadcast. The voice of the Supreme Commander. Strong, unyielding, absolute. We did not return to conquer. We did not return to rule. A pause, a silence that stretched across the void. Then, we returned to correct a mistake. And now, that mistake has been erased. The ultimate choice. The galaxy listened, shocked, confused, because this was not what they expected, not what they feared, not what they had prepared for. Because humanity was walking away. We were never your enemies, but we were never your allies. Now, we will leave you to your future. The departure, one by one, the human fleets began to disappear. Not into hyperspace, not through conventional drives, but into something else, something beyond what the galaxy could understand. The Supreme Commander's voice echoed one last time. The stars belong to you now. Use them wisely. And with that, the last human warship vanished, and humanity was gone. The galaxy stands alone. For the first time in history, the galaxy was free. No dominion, no overlords, no rulers. And yet, there was no celebration, because now the galaxy understood what had been lost, and more importantly, what had been spared, because for all their power, for all their abilities, humanity had chosen to leave. And the galaxy would spend the rest of its days wondering why. The final warning. Before the human fleet vanished forever, one last message was left behind, buried in the remains of the Dominion's archives. A warning, a simple truth. If you repeat the mistakes of the past, we will know. If you create another Dominion, we will return. And next time, we will not leave. The message ended. And for the first time in millennia, the galaxy truly understood fear. Not fear of war, not fear of death, but fear of wasting the second chance humanity had given them. Because now they knew the truth. If humanity ever returned, it would not be to save them. The last decision, the fate of humanity. The galaxy watches in silence. Humanity was gone, not defeated, not destroyed, but left by choice. The most powerful force in history had simply walked away. And the galaxy did not know how to move forward. For centuries, they had feared the return of the myths. For centuries, they had whispered stories of human wrath. And now, after all that, humanity had left them alone. And in their absence, a terrifying realization took hold. The galaxy was not ready to stand on its own. Because for all their wars, for all their power struggles, for all their so-called empires, they had never truly earned their place in the stars. Humanity had given them a second chance, and now they had to prove they deserved it. Where did humanity go? The question spread like wildfire. Had they left for another galaxy? Had they ascended beyond physical existence? Had they chosen to become something greater? There were no answers, no trace of their ships, no sign of their technology, just emptiness. And yet, across the ruins of the Dominion, in the deep corners of uncharted space, whispers began to spread. Stories of shadowy ships glimpsed in the void, of fleets that should not exist, of a force that was watching from the edges of reality, waiting. And though no one could prove it, no one could deny it either, humanity was still out there, somewhere. The last words of the Supreme Commander. One last transmission was discovered, not by accident, not by chance, but left behind intentionally. A final message from the Supreme Commander. A message for all species to hear. It was not a threat, not a warning. It was a lesson, and it began with 6 words. We were never meant to survive. A pause, a moment of silence. Then, but we did, and we became something else. You feared us because you did not understand us. You betrayed us because you could not control us. Another pause. Then, now we are beyond you. The message ended, and the galaxy was left to wonder. What did it mean? Was humanity truly gone? Or had they simply outgrown the galaxy itself? The beginning of a new age. With the Dominion erased, the galaxy stood at a crossroads. Some species sought to rebuild. Others fought for power. But no one dared claim dominion. Because they all remembered the truth. Humanity had left them alone, but they had not abandoned them. They had given them a chance, a final opportunity to prove their worth. And if they failed, if they fell into the same patterns, if they repeated the same mistakes, then the myths would return. And this time, there would be no mercy. A final thought. No one knew if they would ever return. No one knew if they were still watching. But one thing was certain. Humanity had become something greater, something beyond war, beyond empire, beyond anyone's control. And in the silence they left behind, the galaxy understood the final truth. The myths were real. The stories were true. And if humanity ever did return, it would not be as rulers, not as conquerors, but as something far more terrifying, as legends. And legends never die.